Please welcome back to the stage, Tara Mott.
All right, well, welcome back from break. We hope you've had a lot of great conversations today and learned something new. And now we're in that final stretch. But I think these last two keynotes are worth hanging around for. Our next keynote is from St. Louis's newly elected U.S. Congressman Wesley Bell. Wesley was born and raised in North St. Louis County and grew up in a union household that instilled in him a deep appreciation for public service and the dignity of hard work. A proud graduate of Hazelwood East High School, he earned his bachelor's at Lindenwood and his law degree from Mizzou. He began as a public defender in St. Louis, where he witnessed barriers to the treatment and to fair treatment in the criminal justice system. And in 2015, Wesley was elected to the Ferguson City Council, where he played a key role in implementing police and court reforms. His efforts helped bring about stronger police training, officer body cameras, pay raises for law enforcement, and an overhaul of the municipal court system. In 2018, he made history by defeating the incumbent to become the first Black person elected as St. Louis County's prosecuting attorney. As both a prosecutor and now a member of Congress, he's championed policies that address the root causes of crime while ensuring law enforcement has the tools necessary to keep communities safe. In Congress, Wesley continues his commitment to public service, fighting for policies that strengthen working families, advance environmental justice, and address climate change. And Congressman Bell will be joining us as he just came from a community event here in St. Louis, supporting some of the victims of the tornado from just this past Friday. So please help me welcome to the stage U.S. Congressman Wesley Bell.
Good afternoon. It has been a rough few days for us here, and so this is not normal for us. So, for those out of town, just know that there are a lot of folks that are happy that you're here, but a lot of work being done on the ground. But our work continues, and the great work that's being done here also continues. And it's an honor to join you for the 2025 Geospatial Intelligence Symposium. This year's theme, Building a Secure Tomorrow Together, couldn't be more fitting, because what we build together right here in St. Louis will help define the security, the opportunity, and the direction of our country for decades to come. St. Louis has always been a place where bold ideas take root. From the earliest days of aviation to the cutting edge of medicine, manufacturing, and defense, this region has shaped American innovation. It has shaped American ambition, and in this moment, it is shaping our national security. Today, St. Louis stands at the forefront of geospatial intelligence, and that's not by accident. It's the result of intentional investment, of long-term vision, and of deep collaboration between government, private industry, and our community. We're not just keeping up with the demands of the future, we are the future. At the heart of that leadership is NGA West. More than a new building or a federal facility, NGA West represents a transformational investment in our region. It's one of the largest federal investments ever made in North St. Louis, and it's bringing with it not just jobs and technology, but renewed faith in what the future can be. This is more than maps or satellites. Geospatial intelligence is now the connective tissue of modern security. I saw firsthand on my recent congressional delegation to the Middle East that it helps our troops on the ground, supports humanitarian missions, safeguards supply chains, and drives decisions at the highest levels of government. It helps us monitor evolving threats. It helps us respond to natural disasters, and it helps us plan for the unexpected, whether that's a rapidly shifting geopolitical landscape, an emerging cyber domain, or a conflict unfolding in real time across the globe. And as the role of data and real-time intelligence grows, so does the importance of centers like NGA West. They're not just buildings, they're the backbone of how we protect our people, our assets, and our allies. We see that impact locally too. We see it in the partnerships between NGA and schools like Harris Stowe, where students from right here in St. Louis are training to become the next generation of analysts and engineers. We see it in our small businesses that now have contracts to support some of the most advanced work in the country. And we see it in the pride people feel when they know the work being done in their neighborhood is shaping the future of global security. This week, across the symposium, you'll hear about mission planning. You'll hear about precision timing, navigation, cyber defense, AI integration, and the ways these systems all connect. But I want to stress this. The future of geospatial intelligence isn't just about systems, it's about people. About the analysts turning massive data sets into actionable intelligence. About the engineers building more precise tools for our warfighters. About the innovators bringing forward edge tech into government systems that too often lag behind. And about the communities like North St. Louis who have waited too long to be a part of these conversations and are now finally being heard. But we can't build a secure tomorrow if we're undercutting the very tools we need to get there. And that's what we're facing with the administration's proposed cuts to key programs, cuts to research, cuts to data infrastructure, cuts that would pull the rug out from under agencies like NGA just as they're hitting stride. These cuts aren't about saving money, they're about shrinking the government for ideology's sake, no matter the cost to our safety or to our future. In any other moment, pulling back funding from a program like NGA would be unthinkable. But this is not a normal moment. We are watching our federal government chip away at the very capacities that keep us safe. From defense tech to cyber readiness to research and development, the pattern is clear. Short-term thinking that endangers long-term stability. That's not leadership, that's negligence. And I want to be very honest here. The stakes are too high to stay quiet. As a member of Congress and as someone who represents this region, I will fight to protect these investments because they are investments in our people, in our future, and in our values. That starts with workforce development. We need to ensure our workforce reflects the country it serves. That means not just hiring talent from across the country, but cultivating it right here in our public schools, in our community colleges, and in our apprenticeship programs. It means creating real pipelines for veterans transitioning to civil life, for parents re-entering the workforce, for young people who are hungry for purpose and opportunity. It also means making space for innovation that is inclusive. We can't allow a future where only a few zip codes benefit from technological breakthrough. We need to be deliberate in building partnerships that include historically underrepresented communities, minority-owned businesses, and smaller firms that bring fresh thinking to the table. And it means understanding that the work of geospatial intelligence is not just technical. It's deeply human. Behind every data point is a story. Behind every image is a set of lives, of choices, of consequences. And we have to approach that responsibility with humility, with transparency, and with a commitment to using these tools for good. Events like this symposium, matter because they bring us together. They challenge us to ask hard questions, to imagine bold solutions, and to do the work across sectors, across agencies, and across disciplines. This is how we stay ahead. This is how we build a secure tomorrow. I believe in this work. I believe in this city, and I believe that what we're building here in St. Louis can serve as a model for how we build a safer, more equitable, more prepared America. So thank you. Thank you to the analysts, the researchers, the engineers, the educators, the contractors, the public servants, everyone who plays a role in shaping the future of geospatial intelligence. Thank you for believing in St. Louis, and thank you for the work you do every day to protect our country and move it forward. Let's keep building together. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Congressman Bell. If you want to take a seat over here, we can start some Q&A. Thanks for those inspiring words.
Thank you.
It's always great to hear those kind of things. So one thing you did reference is some proposed budget cuts that could affect NGA, like especially related to that data infrastructure and research. Is there anything that Congress can realistically do to help protect these investments?
I think first we can make certain that we're not cutting crucial resources. There is a race going on now. Other countries, China, Russia, they're not cutting resources. This is the future, and it cannot just be in a kinetic investment in kinetic systems. We have to recognize that we have to fight on all fronts, and that means investing in these emerging technologies.
True. All right, let me get to the next question. Well, and this region, as you've noted, already has a very deep defense and intel footprint. We've got Boeing, we obviously have NGA, a growing innovation ecosystem. What is your long-term vision for how St. Louis can move from a supporting player to a national leader in GEOINT and defense technology? What do we need to build to get there?
You know, first and foremost, I want to talk about how St. Louis is primed to be a leader in these technologies. Our cost of living, I know people from around the country. You're not going to get, the kind of house that you can get in a lot of places, or you're not going to get. What you can get here is so much more cost effective because of our cost of living. But also the infrastructure that we have in place, the universities that we have in place. And we have a region that is primed to really push and is solidifying ourselves as a leader in these emerging technologies. And so I'm excited. And one of my priorities is regional and economic development. And we want to be able to attract industries, but we also want to support the ones that we have, and what we can, and I think we're just scratching the surface of what we can do with AI.
Yeah. All right. Well, I am one of the chairs of the USGIF St. Louis Area Community of Interest, and I can attest to everything you just said, because we've been bringing together since 2017 academia, Harris-Stowe, SLU, WashU, all the other universities in the area, UMSL. We've been bringing together the industry, the private industry, talking about new ways they're doing things, and of course, the federal and local government, and then some of these community initiatives. So honestly, I feel like St. Louis has been doing a lot of this before it was even kind of cool to do a lot of this. So, all right. And as a newer member of the House Armed Services Committee, how are you approaching your role when it comes to supporting sectors like GEOINT and defense innovation, especially given the assets we have in St. Louis?
And I want to be clear, I wasn't asked to be on the Armed Services Committee. I very much wanted to be on Armed Services. And it is often difficult for freshman members to get on a committee like Armed Services because it is a committee that a lot of members want to serve on. But considering our footprint in national security, Boeing and NGA West, but also some of our emerging AI companies and the technology that's being done. And I was very, very excited to get the honor of serving. And so Armed Services is one of the most bipartisan committees in Congress. And so as a new member of Congress, I was very encouraged and excited to see Democrats and Republicans working together and in such a bipartisan spirit. But also, I was asked to serve on oversight, and so my first day on Armed Services, it's like, oh, this is great. This is how Congress is supposed to work. And then I went to my oversight meeting, and I'll say this real quickly. Did you guys see on television when one member threatened another member and said, hey, let's step outside? Any of you see all that?
I didn't.
That was my first meeting in oversight. So I went from bipartisanship, working together, to let's take it outside. But I will say I'm very excited to serve on Armed Services, and a lot of it has to do with what we're seeing right here in St. Louis, and you can count me as an ally as we move forward, because that's exactly what I intend for this region to do.
We are very lucky to have you.
Oh, man.
So.
Very lucky. We're very lucky to have you all.
What would you say to a high school student in St. Louis who's never heard of GEOINT? Like, why should they consider a future in this field?
I would first start by saying, because this is the future, and there are opportunities that we want our young people to invest in, and we want to be able to invest in our young people. And AI is, we haven't even seen, again, as I mentioned before, we haven't even scratched the surface on where this could go in the emerging technologies. And so it's important that we invest in our kids and plant these seeds early, because I think we all know there's going to be tremendous opportunities, and we want our young people to be able to embrace those.
Yes, very true. All right, we do have a couple audience questions that I'll be putting up now. So this goes along with the high school students as well, or educating students. Will you be pushing the importance of the National Weather Service as well as its development using GIS and possibly school programs educating students?
So I can, just so you can get some context with me, I very much understand the need for us to continue to invest in our national security. This is not a either-or investment. Yes, we need to invest in education. I'm a product of that. But when we look around the world, countries are investing in not only AI, but in space technologies, and we have to meet that challenge. We have to. And so we almost have a moral obligation to make certain that our next generation of young people and are prepared to meet this moment as well.
All right, this one might be, I don't think it's controversial, but
Okay.
but it is related to things that the House and Armed Services Committee would be interested in. So what can be done at the congressional level to share the lessons learned on Ukraine's battlefield with educators? Or is there anything?
I think there's always a lesson learned. I think if I had to say the priority or the number one on that list is we can't make issues such as supporting democracies partisan. That can't be a Democrat or a Republican issue. And whenever I hear someone talk about it through that lens, I have to quickly correct them, because one thing that we've seen is that democracy is difficult, but just stability is difficult. So when we look at some of the countries that are emerging, stable countries, some of them aren't democracies. But if we can just support these regimes that at least support human rights and understand that stability has to be the goal, democracy's not going to take root everywhere, I think we'll be heading in the right direction. But with that said, when democracy does take root, we have to support it with every resource and everything and every way that we can. So Ukraine, Israel, you name the democracy, we have to stand with our fellow democracies.
100%. So this one is also about bipartisan and crossing the aisle. So how do you plan to cross the aisle and join with the majority to get more funding for geospatial technology for both defense and the infrastructure programs that you'd mentioned?
Well, first I'm going to walk. I'm going to walk over to the other side of the aisle. No, in a county that is St. Louis County, which is about 60-40, I've had a career on working with folks on the other side of the aisle. Mm-hmm. And I think that is how our government is designed to work. That's how the founding fathers created it. And so if you're getting up there saying, well, we're just going to stick it to the other side, you're not going to get anything done. Because even now, when Republicans do have the majority in both houses, there's slim margins. And so to get anything meaningful done, they have to work with us, and we have to work with them. And so I'm going to continue with that mindset. I think that I've met with each member of my Missouri delegation. As a matter of fact, I am the vice chair of the Missouri Democratic contingency, and it's because there's only two of us. But the Missouri delegation, we all work well together. We just had our Missouri delegation lunch last week, where we sit down, we work together, and with the storms and tornadoes that we've seen and over not just the last few days, but over the last few months and around the state, we're all working together to make certain that we get the resources that we need, and which with every member of the delegation, Republican or whomever, the conversations have been the same. We may disagree on some ideological issues, but on issues that pertain to this region and moving this region and this country forward, we're going to work together.
All right, perfect. Well, this is a little bit, different than some of the other questions we've asked so far. So it's more about just St. Louis, right? A challenge is that people view the gain by one and as a loss by others. How can we overcome this perception with respect to all that is good that is actually happening here in St. Louis in your district?
I think that's a good question, and I think we need more of that attitude and and how we navigate issues, and start looking at what is in the best interest of our respective regions, but our country, before we start looking at our parties. And too often, particularly in this disinformation world that we live in, too many folks are deciding when they hear an issue, they're deciding based on what their side is saying before even processing and thinking about the issue on their own. And I think we got to get away from that. We got to get back to where we're having thoughtful conversations with one another, because at the end of the day, we're all Americans, and what history has taught us, when tragedies happen, we come together.
Yeah.
But let's not wait for a tragedy to happen. Let's not wait for a world war or some national disaster. Let's start moving this region and working together now.
I love that. Yeah, that's good advice. We're all here together. The ship sinks for all of us, right?
Indeed, indeed.
The landscape of the country is changing in rapid fashion. What do we have to continue to do here, advancing the St. Louis region under the realities of today?
I think we have to, it's going to take some tough conversations. When we think about St. Louis, for example, we have a very fractured form of government. Mm-hmm. And so while other regions are competing for industries and working together, we are often competing with one another. This is a unique place with 88 municipalities, and all 88 have their own governments. So you'll have a mayor and a board, and they have their own culture. And so it makes it difficult to create an economic development plan times 88 plus the city. It makes it difficult to make a public safety plan times 88 plus the city. And so we have to start looking more regionally and thinking more regionally, because I say this all the time, St. Louis is a sleeping giant. Mm-hmm. And we got to wake it up. And the only way we're going to do that is if we're working together and not working in our own little silos, because we've seen it happen. We've seen Indianapolis, Atlanta, even Detroit more recently. And if we can figure out a way to address that issue and be able to work and navigate more regionally, I think the sky's the limit.
All right, I have one final question.
Okay.
I don't know if you're going to want to answer this, though.
I have a rule. Ask me any question. Just know that I'm going to answer.
All right.
The best.
Are you planning to run for president next time around?
Oh, my God. Listen, I am planning to be the most effective member of Congress that I can for this region. And in 135 days on the job, that is that's enough at this point. So we got a lot of work to do, and I have a lot of great colleagues, not only in this state but around the country, who are on the ground doing the work, and that's exactly what I intend to do for this region.
All right.
So,
well, thank you.
Yes, I ducked that question.
Well, thank you very, very much for spending this time with us, Congressman Bell, and for making it out here. We're very appreciative of your time.
Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for the work that you all do.